Let's do it.
Yeah. Partners who have prohibited with a net of the benefit of each other are forbidden to enter the yard. Rabbi Elias has been Ben Yaakov says this one is entering into his own property and this one is entering his own property, and both are forbidden to install a wheel or an oven there or to raise chickens. If one of them was prohibited by a netter from benefiting from the other, he may not enter the yard. Rabbi Eliezer Ben Yaakov says he may say to him, I am entering my own property, I am not entering yours, be forced the one who made the netter to sell his share. If someone was from the street was prohibited by a niddah to benefit from one of them, he may not enter the yard. Reb Eliezer ben Yaakov says he may say to him, I am entering into your partner's property, I am not entering into yours. Someone prohibited by a niddah to benefit from another who owns a bathhouse or an olive press which are being leased in the city, if he has an interest in them, it is forbidden. If he does not retain an interest in them, it is permitted. If someone says to another, Kohen, your house with respect to my entering it, or your field with respect to my buying it, and he died and sold it to another person, it is permitted. If he said, Cohen, I'm this house with respect to my entering, or this field with respect to my buying it, and he died and sold it to another, it is forbidden. Okay.
Okay. Dalet, Hareini alecha cherim. Hamudar asur. So it depends on your phrasing. If he says, I am cherim to you, the hamudar, the person who is who he made the neder on, he is asur to have benefit from the person making the neder. Hare at alai cherim hanoder asur. And if you are cherim to me, then the person who made the neder is the one who's asur. Obviously, we're following we're just these things should be obvious.
Mm.
Been dealing with them for a long time. Hareini alecha at alai. If yeah, one person can make a two-direction neder that I'm not allowed to benefit from you and you're not allowed to benefit from me. Shnei masurim. So it's binding on both of them. ושניהם מותרים בדבר של עולי בבל ואסורים בדבר של עושה העיר. Okay, so now it's not just it's got a few more ramifications than just the fact that okay, I can't come into your house, I can't eat your food, etc. What it does do also is it means that if I've got a share in something of the public. So for example, let's say the area has the area has something that's a communal benefit that's been purchased with money contributed by the rate-paying public, and everyone has an equal share in that thing because they gathered it together and whatever. Oh, then both of them are forbidden to use that. So what this mission is telling us that davar shel ole Bavel, so things that belong to people even who come from Chutz La'aretz, that's something that doesn't belong to the local people. So, for example, the wells that come through, we'll see that in the coming Mishnah. So those things they're allowed to benefit from. But if it's something that belongs to the people of the city, then both of these people are prohibited from benefiting from it. Okay, and the next Mishnah dives into this. Ezehu davar shel ole Bavel. What are these things that are allowed? Kagon harabayas. The whole of harabayas is property of all Jews, and so therefore it's not subject to this neder. V'ha'azaros and the areas, all the areas around it. V'habor shebe'emtza haderech and the well that's in the way that's on the path. Right, so they had these wells that they dug for people who are coming from Babel to be able to get water for themselves on the road. What's something that belongs to the local city that would be asa for them? Kugon Harachava, the city square. Merchatz, the bathhouse. Beis HaKnesses, the shul. So now, oh, whoops, we just made a neder, and now neither of these guys is allowed to come to shul anymore. Beis Teva, Sfarim, and the ark, and the books that were purchased with communal funds. Hakosev Chel Kolonasi. And so Kosef Chelkol and Nasi. So what we're doing over here is that when we have such a situation and the guy says, okay, well this is a bit of a mess. Let me just give over my chelek in the city to the president or to the mayor or whatever. Rabbi Yehuda Omer echad kosev lenasi ve'echad kosev lehediot. So it doesn't make a difference. You can write it to the nasi or you could write it over to your next neighbor Fred, as long as he's not involved in the neder, and then the other person is allowed to benefit. Okay, ma ben kosev lenasi v'kosev lehediot. What's the difference between why do we use the expression kosev lenasi as opposed to just writes it over to somebody else? Is that shakosev lenasi eino tzarich lezakos, that when you write it over to the nasi, to the president or to the mayor or whatever, that's you don't even need to have a kinyan on it. All you need to do is write it over and it's a done deal. Whereas if you do it to Fred, then there's got to be some sort of kinyan, somebody's got to be mazake, so there's got to be a physical action to transfer the property. Okay. Chachamim אומרים, אחד זה ואחד זה צריכים לזכות. No, both of them need to have a kinyan. לא דיברו בנשיא אלא בהווה. There's no difference. Both of them need a kinyan. So why do we talk about kosev nasi? Because that was just the way you'd do it. It's they just wrote it in the fashion that it would be done by the people of the time. If it was just typical to write it over to the mayor rather than just to some random guy. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Ein Anshe HaGalil tzrichin lichtov. He said, actually, in the Galil, there was no need to do this because shekvar kasvu avosehem al yadehem. So apparently, the there was a tendency among people of the Galil to make Nedarim like this. It was just part of the culture that you got angry with somebody, you made a neder, and then you got into trouble because now suddenly all the communal property is whatever, and it's got to be handed, and you can't go to shul and you can't go to the merchats, etc. So the Chachamim of the Galil said, you know what, people are doing this too regularly, and we're having to like pull this shtick of writing it over to the Nasi. Everything is now written over to the Nasi. As soon as we buy something with public funds, it's all in the rishus of the Nasi, and therefore, if people make Nedarim, then it doesn't give rise to this problem anymore. Okay. Mishnah Vav, Hamudar hana mechavero ve'en lo ma yochal. So we have the situation where there's a madir and a mudar, and now the mudar is in trouble, and the madir is like having some regrets. He wants to help the mudar out, but he can't because he's not allowed to give hana to the mudar. Okay, so nosno la'acher l'shum matana. He can give it to a third party, just as a gift. Say, yeah, this is a gift for you. Bahala mutaba, and now he can, and if he gives him the wink and says, listen, just for the context of the discussion, oh, it's really terrible what, Fred's really suffering and I can't actually help him. You know what? I've got this package of food over here. How would you like it? Gives it over to him and nods as good as a wink to a blind bat, eh? So he gets the hint and now it's permitted to give it over to him. So this is a fun story over here. So there was a father and son who were broggers with each other, and maybe it was the father. The father said that he was madi hana from his son, and doesn't want to have any benefit from his son now. So meanwhile the son is now making a wedding for his son. So he wants the grandfather to come to the grandson's wedding. Okay. So now the father of the chassan comes to his friend and says, "Listen, I've hired out the wedding hall and paid the caterers and everything, and so all of the stuff is now effectively mine for the day. But that means that my father can't come. So now, my friend Fred, I want you to have this wedding hall. I'm giving it to you as a matana, this and all the food and whatever. Okay? But I just want to make sure that my father is able to come and eat at the wedding suda. So his friend said, okay, no problem. Im shilihem, if it's all mine, harehem mukdashim l'shamayim. I'm making it all hektish, donation to the temple. And he says, what? What are you doing? Says the first guy. I didn't give it to you so that you could be makdish to Shemaim. So his friend said, okay. The only reason why you did this is so that you're gonna bring your father over here and you'll be able to sit and drink together and chill out together. V'hei Avon taloi barosho, which what he means, and the oven will, he uses a lashon naki. He says that the oven will be taloi on his head. What he really means is my head, but he doesn't want to say on. He doesn't want to bring it on himself. He says, "I'm going to be the one who's going to facilitate you both violating a neder." Okay, so basically, his friend is smart and says I don't want to be part of this. You want to do a hataras nedarim, do a hataras nedarim, but don't try and joke things around because by using me as the cheat code. כשבא דבר לבני חכמים אמרו, so they brought this shaila to the Chachamim, and the Chachamim said, yeah, he's right. Kol matana she'ena she'im hikdisha ena mukdeshes ena matana. So if it's the case that you gave a matana, but it's almanas that you can't give it to hekdesh, it's not a matana. It didn't work. So they upheld the friend's objection and said, if you want to do hataras nedarim, let's find you a pesach, but don't try this with the gift. Anyway, that's a fun story. Let's go back to base Daled.
It's valid. And terminate the Nedarim are treated stringently and their interpretation leniently. How? He said, it is to me like salted meat or wine libations, or if he vowed of the heaven, it is binding. If he vowed of idols, it is not binding. If it is terminate, it is binding. It is like to meat, like kerem. If he meant the kerem to the temple, it is binding. But if he meant the kerem of Kohanim, it is not binding. If it is interminate, it is binding. If one said it is to meat like a tithe, if he vowed like the animal tithe, it is binding. Or if he vowed like of a granary, it is not binding. If it is determinate, it is binding. It is to me like truma, if he vowed concerning the withdrawal from the chamber, it is binding if he vowed concerning the granary. It is not binding if it is interminate, the neder is binding. These are the words of Reb Meir. Reb Yehuda says indeterminate truma in Judea is forbidden, in Galilee is permitted, because people in Galilee are not familiar with the withdrawals from the chamber. Indeterminate karayim, in Judea they are permissible, but in Galilee they are binding, because the people of Galilee are not familiar with the karayim of Kohanim. If one vowed referring to Karam and said, I vowed with reference to a fisherman's net, or he vowed referring to Korban and he said, I vowed with reference to gifts for kings, for if he declared myself is to you like a Korban, and he said, I vowed with reference to a bone that I have set aside for myself to use for Nedarim, or Kohanim, that which my wife benefits to me, and he said, my declaration was directed on my first wife, whom I divorced. For all of these, they need not request cancellation, and if they request a cancellation, we penalize them and are strict with them, because these are the words of Reb Meir. The sages, however, say we may find grounds to annul the neder from elsewhere, and we teach them so that they not conduct themselves with levity when dealing with Nedarim. The sages permitted four Nedarim: bargaining Nedarim, hyperbolic Nedarim, unwitting Nedarim, and Nedarim on conditions unavoidably unfilled. What are bargaining Nedarim? One was selling an item and said, Kohanim, if I sell it to you for less than a seller, and the other says, Kohanim, if I pay you more than a shekel, both persons are willing at 3 dinners. If Eliezer ben Yaakov says, so too, one who wants to direct the neder at another so that the other person should eat with him. He says, any neder that I will make in the future is void. This is effective regarding that provided that he remembers at the time of the neder. Okay. Oh, confusion. All right. Subos. We have the Gimel test. If one of them declares I have seduced so-and-so's daughter, he must pay for the disgrace and impairment by his own admission. But he does not pay the fine. Likewise, if he declared I have stolen, I have slaughtered for, and I have sold, and he must pay the principal by his own admission, but he need not pay the double payments on the 4-fold or 5-fold payments. If one declares my ox has killed so-and-so or so-and-so's ox, he must pay the due payments for it by his own admission. If one declares my ox has killed so-and-so's slave, however, he need not pay the fine by his own admission. This is the general rule. Whoever must pay more than he is damaged need not pay by his own admission. If a maiden was seduced, the indemnities for her disgrace and her impairment, as well as her fine, belong to her father, as well as the indemnity for pain in the case of a violated maiden. If she went to trial before the father died, they belong to the father. If the father died, they belong to the brothers. If the father died before she went to trial, they belong to her. If she went to trial before she matured, they belong to the father. Or if the father died, they belong to the brothers. Or if she matured before she went on trial, they belong to her. Reb Shimon says if she did not collect the payments before the father died, they belonged to her, and her handiwork and anything she found, although they did not yet collect it, if the father died, they belonged to the brothers. If one gave his daughter in Erison and the groom divorced her, and again he gave her in Erison and she widowed her, her ketubah belongs to him. If he gave her in marriage and the husband divorced her, and again he gave her in marriage and he was widowed, the ketubah belongs to her. Rabbi Yehuda says the first one belongs to the father. That said to him, once he gives her in marriage, her father has no authority over her.
Okay. Next.
Ma'aser Sheni. Okay. If Ma'aser Sheni was brought into Jerusalem,
Hold on. My, we're first going to do Tanis.
Tanis first. Okay, let me go back. Okay, Aleph. From when do we mention the powers of rain? From Rabbi Eliezer says from the first Yom Tov of the festival, and Rabbi Yehuda says from the last Yom Tov of the festival. Rabbi Yehuda said to him, since rain is but a symptom of a curse during the festival, why mention it? Rabbi Eliezer replied to him, I too did not say to request rain, but merely to mention. He causes the wind to blow and the rain to fall in its proper season. He responded, if so, one should always mention the powers of rain. We do not request rain except close to the rainy season. Rabbi Yehuda says of those Sanim who stand before the ark on the last Yom Tov of the festival, the last cousin mentions the power of rain, but the first cousin does not mention it. On the first Yom Tov of Pesach, the first cousin mentions the power of rain, but the last cousin does not mention it. Until when do we request rain? Rabbi Yehuda says until Pesach is over. Rabbi Meir says until Nisan is over, as it is said, he caused the rain to fall for you, the early rain and the late rains in the first month. On the first day of March Cheshvan, we request rain. Rabbi Gimel says on the seventh day, 15 days after the festival, so that the last pilgrim and straggler of Israel may reach the Euphrates River. Are we finished with rain now here? Are we finished with the rain here?
Yeah, probably. I think, or have we? Actually, I'm not sure. I'll have to check the weather forecast for you. You give me a second, and
That's okay.
okay, let's go to Ma'aser Sheni.
If Ma'aser Sheni was brought into Jerusalem and became unclean, whether by an abatuma or by an alalatuma, whether inside or outside, Beit Shammai said it must be redeemed and all must be eaten inside, except that which becomes unclean by an abatuma outside. But Basil says all must be reduced and eaten and redeemed and eaten inside, except that which was rendered unclean by the vladatuma inside. Okay. If what was brought with Ma'aser Sheni money became unclean, it may be redeemed. Rabbi Yehuda says it must be buried. They said to Rabbi Yehuda, if Ma'aser Sheni itself rendered unclean, it must be redeemed. That which was brought with Ma'aser Sheni money should certainly be redeemable. He said to them, not so. If you say so concerning Ma'aser Sheni itself, that which when clean may be redeemed at a distance, you say so concerning that brought with Ma'aser Sheni money, which was clean would not be redeemed at a distance. And my Shammai says he must open and empty into this wine press. But Hill says he must open but not need empty. What does this apply? In places where they're generally sold sealed, but where they are generally sold open, the jar does not become non-holy. However, if he wishes to impose a stringency on himself and sell by measure, the jar becomes non-holy. Rabbi Shimon says, likewise, if one says to his fellow, this jar I am selling to you without the jar becomes non-holy. Okay. And go over to the guy. Okay. Hey, base. The Kohen confirmed the nega because of the white hair, which then disappeared. Subsequently, either the white hair reappeared or living skin or expansion appeared. Whether the original white hair appeared initially after the first week, after the second week, or after the nega had been declared in Hahor, the status of the nega does not change. The Kohen confirmed the nega because of living skin, which then disappeared. Subsequently, either the living skin appeared or the white hair expansion appeared. Whether the nega was originally confirmed initially after the first week, after the second week, or after it had been declared Tahor, the status of the nega does not change. The Kohen confirmed the nega because of expansion, which then disappeared. Subsequently, either the expansion reappeared or white hair appeared. Whether the original nega was initially confirmed at the end of the first week or at the end of the second week or after it was declared tahor, the status of the nega does not change. Deposited hair, Akiva ben Nahal, Spruce Tame, and the sages rule of tahor. What is deposited hair? Someone had a beheras with white hair. The beheras disappeared, leaving the white hair in place and subsequently returned. Akiva ben Nahal rules deposited hair to be tame, and the sages rule of tahor. Rabbi Akiva said, I agree in this case that this case is tahor because it's not deposited hair. What is deposited hair? Shown with a baharas the size of a gris that contained 2 white hairs. The harat receded into half a gris, leaving the white hair on the remaining baharas and separately returned. They said to him, just like Akiva's opinion is disregarded, so is your opinion not upheld. Any doubt concerning the guy magically is ruled tahor as long as the afflicted person has not been confirmed tame. Once the afflicted person has been confirmed tame, a doubt is ruled. How so? 2 people came to the Kohen, one with a baharas the size of a gris, and the other size of baharas the size of a sella. At the end of the week, both baharas are the size of a sella, and it is unknown which is the one that spread. Whether both baharas are on the one person or 2 people, each baharas is ruled tahor. Rabbi Akiva says, with 1 person it is tameh, with 2 people it is tahor. Okay.
Okay.
And
I was
on Avo. Okay, Gimel Tess. Chanina ben Dosa says, anyone whose fear of sin precedes his wisdom will endure. And anyone whose wisdom precedes his fear of sin, his wisdom will not endure. He used to say, anyone whose actions exceed his wisdom wisdom will endure. And anyone whose wisdom exceeds his wisdom will not endure. He used to say, anyone with whom the spirit of his fellows is pleased, the spirit of the omnipresent is pleased with him. Anyone with whom the spirit of the present fellow is not pleased, the spirit of the omnipresent is not pleased with him. You have Joseph ben Harkin, it says, morning, sleeps, midday wine, children's chatter, and sitting at gatherings of the ignorant to move a person from this world. Elisar the Modaite says, one who desecrates a consecrated object, one who desecrates the festivals, and one who shames his friend in public, one who nullifies the covenant of the father Abraham, peace be upon him, and one who reveals explanation of the Torah contrary to halakha, even though they may possess Torah and good deeds, he has no share in the world to come.
okay.
Said,
That's it.
that was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, good.
Okay. Have a wonderful Shabbos.
Enjoy Shabbos, enjoy. And I will see you Sunday. Okay.
Sunday.
Thank you.